Hi there, just thought I'd do a bit of a quick clip on the big worm farm we have. It's just a 55-gallon drum, 200-litre drum. I chopped a big section of the top out and reinforced it with some aluminium that I pulled off some office furniture that we pulled to pieces. Just beat that around to make it form a shape around the edge of the drum. Hinged on the back with some old hinges we've pulled off bits and pieces. We have a couple of air holes, just the plugs, shade cloth, zip tie, hold it in place. Nice big one on the top here. And I drilled a series of holes around here, more shade cloth just to keep the house flies out. And inside we have a base that's made out of, the top part of it is just weed cloth, and that stopped any of the castings and food falling through. Just some wire mesh to help support the weed cloth a bit better, and some old oven racks. They were stainless, so we figured they'd do alright in there, they'd last. So all I did was drill a few holes in here and put some zip ties in. That was just to keep the castings and the food and the worms out of the liquid as it accumulates. And down in the bottom I just had a grommet with a 13mm or about a ½ inch irrigation tap. Let's move this over a bit, that I just turned on and off to collect the liquid. Now that after we've doing the bins and the drums and that with the worms around the place, I've pretty much all come to the conclusion that we don't need to get all that fancy. What I plan on doing is dumping the screened horse manure. Some of it won't be screened because it's pretty damp in the bags over there after all the rain we've had, and I'll just be putting that directly into here. I will be fitting a little strainer just over the top of the plug, like such. It won't actually be attached to anything. I'll just be relying on the weight of the manure to keep it down. If I drill a hole in the bottom to attach it, well, the liquid's just going to fall down through there, so pretty much we'll just leave that there. I don't think any worms will escape, but if there is a problem, it should be enough to release any excess fluid. So that's pretty much all I'm going to be doing with this one. Don't see much point in getting too complicated anymore. Just throw the manure in and see how we go. So I just thought I'd give you a look at the whole thing. Bit of overkill, I know, but it was fun to build. So I'm just going to set this back up and put it back where it came from. Show you the worms being released. It's always fun, I think. So, right, well, I've set up the had a bit of a clean out and set up the other worm farms down here. The barrels, those two barrels. There's room for another one up the end there. And this is the other farm. I put the legs back on after I modified it just by zipping it and wiring the legs on. Very flimsy design with the legs for the amount of weight that we put in them. So anyway, that's on, nice and sturdy. This is the worms I harvested, some of them from the other day. They've just been in there with some scraps, some wet newspaper, don't know what that is, germinating seed. So the worms are all down in there and nice and happy still. So hundreds of them, if not thousands. So that's half the worms that were harvested the other day. And I'll just be going into here. So this is it with the manure added. Some of it's very, very moist. It's clumping together rather well. I'm also going to run probably about 4 or 5 litres of water over the whole lot just to see how my little sieve system down here works. Like I said, that's just sitting there loosely. I'll just even all this up over the top of that now. I also took out that plug there and stuck on some shade cloth. So a bit of a water. This is just mainly to test my little screen more than anything. The manure should be wet enough. So these little fellas can go in now. Just dump them straight over, I think would be the best bet. Give you some idea of how many worms are in there. So heaps and heaps and heaps, but as I said before, if you have seen my harvesting clip, these are all just little tiny little ones compared with what's in the other barrels around the place. So So I'll just spread this around everywhere. Take this paper out. And they should love it in here. Heaps of manure. Soon to be some scraps just to give them a nice little boost. So my thinking with these guys is I have one tray down there. The bottom tray needs to be harvested out of that once I fill it up a little bit more and all the worms move up. Those two barrels, so it'll be 2 to 3 tiers of this farm. Those 2 barrels and this barrel will be eaten over summer, and come autumn, which is one of the peak growing times for us, we'll harvest them. Now that I think I've got the harvesting sussed out pretty well, I'll harvest these guys and then start all over again. So, and as we go, I'll be picking out the worms, the big worms, and feeding to the fish and the chooks as treats. So a lot of those worms seem to have just gone now. There's a couple there. So I got some scraps here that magically appeared, and I'll just go on top there. These scraps here will run through the food processor. So I could use my hand, but I'm a bit of a wimp. I'll use my hand. Just scatter that over the top, just down one end, and that should give the little fellas something nice and a lot different than the manure and the coconut coir they're used to. So every now and then they'll get a feeding of this. We're going to keep trying to grow fodder crops for all these guys, for the worms. So every week or so they'll all get a little bit of something different. But other than that, they'll just be munching on the horse manure. So that's pretty much all it. They should all be happy in there now and should be settled by tomorrow morning. So that's the setup at last. Finally done. Have a good one.